Hello everyone, this is Adam Green from ATA Engineering. Welcome to this webinar on STAR-CCM Plus and the cloud. A few housekeeping things to talk about. All the participants are muted right now, and so basically if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will unmute everyone at the end so they can ask questions if they want to, but really using the chat window is the easiest way to get the questions to myself and a few others at ATA who are on the line. So with that, I will get started. And today we're going to talk about STAR-CCM Plus and the cloud, and specifically STAR-CCM Plus Cloud HPC, which is Siemens' new offering for basically running STAR in their own Siemens cloud. But before we do that, let's just talk about the agenda overall that we're going to cover today. I'm going to do a few minutes on who ATA Engineering are. This is sponsored by ATA Engineering. And this webinar will be recorded. So if there's interest and you want to show people afterwards, you can come to the ATA website and find a link to where to view it. So if you need to share this info with anyone else, please do that at our website. And we'll talk a little bit about why the cloud and how Siemens have done some market research and other things to really highlight why the cloud is useful. Then we'll talk about the actual Siemens cloud offerings specifically Cloud HPC, how it works, why it's so great. And then really some thoughts about the future of the cloud in the Siemens Simcenter world. So who are ATA Engineering? We are an employee-owned small business. We are consulting engineers primarily, and we have over 190 people, and over 160 are engineered degree-holding experts. And so really we are a very skilled bunch doing very kind of complex problems around the US. And our industries that we work in are aerospace and defense primarily, some spacecraft work, a lot of hypersonics in the last few years, but also maritime and themed entertainment are other areas that we work. And it always interests me that themed entertainment has some of the strictest security protocols that we work with. And so we basically are a services company doing design analysis and test, and have been doing that for over 20 years throughout the US. And specifically the test side of things, but the design and analysis is also, we have a lot of experience in that area too. And we have offices mostly in the aerospace centers across the US, but you can see from the map on the West Coast, San Francisco, LA, and San Diego, then Denver and Albuquerque in the center, and then Huntsville and Washington, DC on the east. Now, I'm actually in Boston, and one of these days we'll have a Boston office, but not quite yet. And so we are also in the line of doing our consulting work. We use Siemens tools extensively, and over the years we've developed basically a lot of skills in that area, and that's really why we became a Siemens value-added reseller. And we're a platinum level Siemens reseller, which is the highest that they have. We're also an expert partner in many of their tools, specifically FEMAP, STAR, and Simcenter 3D. And we also more recently became the Siemens specialized VAR in the US for Siemens test equipment. So the hardware for measuring test signals and processing, all part of the ATA portfolio right now. And if you want to find more details about all of that and the company as a whole, come to the website, ataengineering.com/software. There's lots of resources there to help users. And if you're not a user and you need more information on products, feel free to browse that and reach out to us if you need to. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today, and really, why the cloud. And I'm guessing most people on the line today are going to be pretty familiar with the cloud. It's not a new thing, but it's changing all the time. So we'll brainstorm a little bit about why that is. And then we'll look at basically Siemens choices for running on the cloud and the tools they offer to do that. And so Siemens last year, I think they had this, commissioned a survey with this company called Tech Clarity, and they really talked to companies about what would help them do better in their design work. And when you look at the columns here, you can see faster solvers, automated workflows, tool integration, and cloud were all questions they asked, and somehow they were able to distill, who were the top performers in the industry and the others. And you can see that, all the top performers, they all wanted faster solvers, they all wanted automated workflows, and they all wanted tool integration. But it's interesting how in the cloud column, the difference between the two is bigger than the others, and really the idea of using the cloud enables top performers to achieve that status. And so it's an interesting question. Why is that? Why is that people who are using the cloud can do better in their markets and come out as top performers? So let's consider why that might be. And so, obviously using the cloud, you have accelerated innovation time to market. And why is that? Well, really because you've got a lot more resources immediately at your disposal. You can grab more cores, you can use less cores when you need to. So just basically being able to do things much faster because of potentially unlimited resources at your disposal. And so also because you can grab a bigger, let's say HPC at any time on the cloud, you can do much more complex models. So if you wanted to do, 100 million cell STAR-CCM plus model that you certainly couldn't run on an 8-core desktop that you might be running, if you wanted to do that, you could go to the cloud and basically get enough cores to do that. So you're no longer constrained by hardware to address the complexity of models. You can mainly make them as complex as you need to, obviously without going over the top. And also there's less wastage because basically IT changes can leave computers redundant. A lot of us have got older machines in our offices that still work, but are certainly not competitive. And if you're in the cloud, that doesn't happen because you can always basically use almost the latest hardware combinations when you need to. And you can also not spend money on large capital investments. So you can avoid buying a supercomputer that's going to be redundant quite quickly, but really, people still do that and have been doing it for a long time, but it's getting less and less. More people are faced with this compelling question of, should I buy that, potentially $1 million supercomputer, or should I work with the cloud? And more often than not now, it's let's go with the cloud. And really, from our perspective as consulting engineers, this is one of the most important ones that we come across, and we use AWS a lot in our business. And that is that, you've got compute capacity on premise. You've got some fixed limit on what that is because that's what you've purchased. But oftentimes you need more than that. And what do you do? And really, the other side of that is that sometimes you're not using it all, and sometimes it's sat there. That overcapacity is wasted money. So it's really just a case of how do you match your requirements to your actual demand? And using the cloud can help you scale your demand as you go, when you need it. And then lastly, really a cloud issue more than anything else, but ensuring data security. Obviously, if everything's on-prem and you've got it locked down, you can manage your own security. But as soon as you go to the cloud, it's something that you have to worry about. So these are some of the reasons why cloud processing has got more and more traction over the last 10 years, and it's going to continue to do so. Just checking if we have any comments. Okay, no. So basically, yeah, HPC in the cloud sounds great, but we still need help and resources to configure it and make it happen. And so basically, Siemens have come up with Simcenter Cloud HPC, which is a connection to STAR-CCM Plus to let you directly connect to AWS. And so, what does it give you? The basics. It gives you instant access from STAR-CCM Plus to HPC resources. And it manages everything for you, so it's very accessible. It's very quick and easy to move data to the cloud and back, and also lets you monitor jobs via a web browser while it's happening. So it gives you all the tools you need to really extend your STAR-CCM Plus usage from your local machines to the cloud, and back again, obviously pulling data back. So it's accessible. Step one. Next thing is it's flexible. You can really access as much capacity as you need when you need it, and you don't have to call IT to help you set that up. It's all managed by Siemens and AWS, and it's very straightforward to kick off, and you'll see that later. And really, this is kind of an accounting one, but it transforms CapEx to OpEx. So you're not buying capital equipment that you're having to depreciate. Now you're creating an operational expense that's much easier to correlate to project work and so forth. So it just changes the accounting a little bit, that you're not working with capital expenditures. And then as you start to use it, obviously it needs to be scalable. Maybe you've got 32 cores on a desktop machine, and you really need a lot more than that. So using Cloud HPC, you can scale to whatever you want. Starting at say 100 cores, I think 141 cores is where it starts, and it goes up to 700 plus cores as one of their clusters. So it's very scalable and easy to access. And really accessing any of those levels of machines, the amount of effort to do that is no different. And so it's very exciting that smaller companies and even startups, with a few people, can access very large resources if they need to. And so these next two terms, they really come from Siemens, but they're interesting: scale out and scale up. Scale out is interesting because if you're paying for simulation by the hour, then let's say you want to run 10 simulations that are going to take an hour each. If you were going to do that, and let's say they're the same on your desktop machine, and you could run them for 10 hours and get the answers. But if you on the cloud, the economics are the same whether or not you run them 10 back to back, or if you run them 10 all at once, because you can get the resources, you can run them. So instead of taking 10 hours to get 10 data points back, you could run them all in 1 hour. And you'd obviously spend the same, but you would get them back much faster. And so that model of scaling out to make things happen much faster is really new to the cloud because of that unlimited resource of hardware, and it lets you do that. Now, scaling up is a little different in that you can take a very complex model. Someone said the other day to me they were working on a STAR model of 120 million cells. And they wanted to run it, in 6 hours. So it's scalable. Put it on 500 cores on a cloud system. That's scaling up, adding cores to make a job run faster. And so not every STAR model will scale like that, but many do. And so scaling out and scaling up are interesting terms that are of great benefit. So when we look at all of those, obviously accessibility, flexibility, scalable, and secure are all parts of what we would want in a cloud system using STAR-CCM+. So before I take a quick look into what is Cloud HPC for STAR-CCM+, I thought I'd just summarize for people the existing licenses that are available. And when you look at this, many of you who are users will be familiar, but really. And these are all power licenses, which mean they're unlimited cores. There are single session licenses and below this, but for the sake of this discussion, a STAR-CCM+ power session is a normal license for people to use. It's normally leased annually, and it's normally controlled by a FlexLM license manager somewhere on an intranet. And people have used that either locally or in the cloud, or both, because you can set up a Flex server in the cloud as well. So people have used a STAR-CCM+ power session in both places, but it's not ideally suited, and sometimes it's pretty tricky. So Siemens have another model for running STAR, which is a STAR-CCM+ power on demand license by the hour, and it's basically a power session by the hour. And the difference is that it doesn't need a FlexLM license manager. It pings a clock counter that Siemens have in New York. And so it can sit on, say, AWS or Rescale or Penguin or really anywhere you want. And you can run STAR. And when you kick off a run, the clock counter will ping the Siemens clock counter and say, start the run. And at the end of the run, it'll stop it. So it knows you've run for 1 or 10 hours or whatever you've run. And starting, gives you your answers back. And so the power on demand licensing scheme has been very successful over the last probably 8 years of helping Siemens deploy STAR-CCM+ in the cloud. And often people will purchase a single STAR license to use locally, and then go to power on demand licensing, in one of the public cloud vendors when they want to scale up. And that's how people have done it historically. But now with Siemens have done this strategic plan with AWS. They've basically taken the power on demand module for the methodology and added the AWS cores to it. So STAR-CCM+ Cloud HPC is an hourly rental of unlimited core STAR-CCM+ plus the AWS hardware to run it. So it's the complete solution. And not only, you'll see in a minute why that is good, because it basically is very integrated and much easier to use than using a power on demand process on public cloud. So I have a question in the chat. Let me see. Oh, Scott. Okay, thanks, Scott. So let's talk a little bit about what is cloud HPC. And there's a few videos from Siemens here that are quite interesting, so I'll let them play. But basically, when you look at STAR-CCM Plus, from within STAR, you can open basically a mini browser that actually connects to AWS and controls basically configuring a cluster on AWS, provisioning it with STAR-CCM Plus, and uploading your SIM file from your local machine. So again, what you've seen just there, which was quick, I know, but is really literally 2 or 3 clicks to start off an AWS instance with STAR on it, of the same one that you're using. So it really is that simple once you've configured your account and everything else. And so I'm not sure if people can read this on the screen resolution, but there are actually 4 sizes of cluster there: 141, 325, 500, and 750 are the different cluster sizes that you can get, and you can choose any of those when you kick it off. And then once that's run, you can monitor it. And again, this is a browser built into STAR-CCM Plus, and that browser can also be accessed from any machine that you have your own browser on. So if you want to, from a phone, an iPhone, or even a tablet, you can look at the same views you're seeing now. So if you wanted to kick off a job and then go home, and then look at how it's doing on your phone or your own computer at home, it's all browser based, and you can see that. And so that makes it very convenient. And there's some special things that have been added to STAR to enable that. And then once you've finished the model, you can look at the output files, and you can download them back to your local machine to process and visualize. And really, that's one of the things about the cloud in general, and this is no exception, that it's mostly a batch processing situation to utilize the cores. I'll talk later about how that could change over the next year, but right now it's still most of the graphical work is done using a local machine, and most of the processing in the cloud is batch process. So in this case, you bring the data back down and process it with your local machine. So that all looks really simple, but how is it happening kind of behind the scenes? And so if we look at the workflow generally, basically a customer will purchase credits up front of cloud HPC, and you can submit the job direct from the desktop application. And as you just saw, you select the resource that you want to use, and away it goes. And you can see when you look at this video, if you want to after the fact, you can see these links here that certainly will give you more resources on the Siemens website as to get some of these details. But really, the benefits are, we already talked about them before, but it's so simple and very quick to deploy. It's a fully managed HPC with AWS and Siemens, so there's no IT burden at all, and really it's very seamless from the user point of view. It ramps up quickly. Anyone who's used AWS knows that they don't start off instantly. Sometimes it can be 1 minute, sometimes it can be 5, but it's certainly not much more than that. So it's certainly quick. Again, you can pay for what you use. You can buy a certain number of credits per month or per year, and you buy more when you need them. So it's getting close to the pay for only what you use kind of system, and really very scalable. And so a few things that are needed for it. Siemens has a STAR-CCM Plus hybrid SaaS license for STAR. And if there's any customers on the line, pretty much anything that ATA has sold over the last year or so, it is one of those. We make that our default license. And that actually includes the Siemens accelerator share portion of their cloud strategy, which I'll talk about later. But basically, Simcenter hybrid SaaS gives you access to Amazon S3 buckets of data that can be used. So you need that as a prerequisite. And it's set up using the accelerator share admin portal, which lets you pay for credits and allocate them to people and control users within your group. and you can buy bundles from 1,000 to 100,000. And the more you buy, the lower cost they get. And we can talk about that in a few more on the next slide. And so there's 4 clusters available from 141 to 756. But any supporting files like Java macros and other things all can be sent up as well to be run at the same time. Graphical user monitoring is available live through this, but it uses a special new job monitor within STAR-CCM+. So if you look at, okay, how do I buy these? How do I use them? Here's kind of some notes on that. And I've taken the prices out because Siemens don't like to publish full-blown prices in webinars, but I can discuss it. And so if we look at that first line there with the credit, 1,000 pack of credits, that one is, they are $1,000. So they're effectively $1 per credit. So if you look at down below, and you can specify one of these 4 clusters. And if we take the second one, the one that, I'm showing my mouse. If we take the second cluster here, so we've got 329 calls, and then it's 47 credits per call. And if you bought the 1,001, that's $47 per hour. And so if you think about that, if you think about STAR-CCM plus Power on Demand, which is the software only, that is $26 an hour. So, and that doesn't include the hardware. So you can get 329 calls for an extra cost of $21 an hour, which works out to be a little over 6 cents per call, which is pretty standard for the industry. I know other people have talked, 5 to 8 cents per call hour for CPU hours on cloud systems. So it's competitive with where you might spend your money elsewhere. And so for the convenience, it's definitely worth it when the pricing is very similar. So how does it work? And so really, there's a couple of things to think about. One is that Cloud HPC is essentially a web application that is accessed in 2 ways. One is that it's embedded within the STAR-CCM Plus desktop client. So when you click on that button that says kick off an AWS job, it's firing up effectively an embedded browser within Star. And that same browser or that same URL can be accessed through any browser that you might care to use elsewhere. So if you've got Chrome on a tablet or whatever, you can use it from there. So you can monitor things, and you can use that URL wherever you browse the web. And so when a job's created, and this goes back to the accelerator share piece, it uses a dedicated part of Amazon S3 storage areas where it uploads your data. And then it provisions an EC2 node for you to run on. So basically, all of that happens behind the scenes and is automated. And obviously, if you've got big models, sometimes models can be very big, tens of gigabytes. Those don't go up instantly. And so certainly your network bandwidth and the speed of that is going to impact some of that productivity. But most people, I'm finding, certainly are getting faster pipes all the time. And so that's becoming less of an issue. And so that's the basics. And if you're into Amazon architecture blocks, this is even more of those same details. But if you look here, this is kind of the user experience here. This is an S3 bucket. And then Siemens uses some other tools. You authenticate with your Siemens web key, but then you use AWS Fargate and Lambda to really control the data flow and metering and really just generating the clusters. So S3 is for the storage. And then basically, AWS works on these availability zones. And, certainly in the US, there's one main zone in Virginia that AWS uses that Siemens kind of focuses on in this first release of Cloud HPC. But that's going to change as things move along. Really, I think all the availability zones will be kind of accessible. And so, really, most of this is again, if you're for the global market is the availability zone available in my region? How secure is it? Is it separated and so forth? So, but basically, Cloud HPC will take full advantage of the global side of things. And so, if you are a global company, and I doubt many of the people are on here because most of the clients ATA work with are US based, but nonetheless, AWS is a global resource that ultimately can be used by Cloud HPC. But initially, this first one is really just deployed in the North Virginia region only. But basically, others will be added soon. And the main thing is it kind of goes back to security. None of your data is going out of the country, for one, and it will not leave that region. And so ATA work a lot in the aerospace sector. And many of our customers take a look at this presentation and they say, well, it's great, but we can't use it because we are, our IT will never let our data go off premise, maybe some answers, but others don't have faith that the cloud is secure enough. And that's obviously that's their opinion, and oftentimes they stick with that, but also that's changing. Many government groups are changing, and in fact, the US Air Force has just deployed a lot of Siemens cloud-based tools somehow, and so they have been able to come up with strategies that satisfy their security requirements. So even if right now the security issues are not good enough for everybody, they certainly will be within a year or so. So, but security nonetheless is important, and Siemens has a couple of things to help. One is they have a white paper that you can download here. And again, if I can send links out to anyone who's interested. But really, the partnership with AWS, who have years of experience with secure environments, it kind of creates a secure solution out of the gate. But really, it's kind of the end-to-end security that is not quite there yet. So that's coming. But Siemens has a Siemens Trust Center that really works hard to put all of that out for you to see what is secure and basically, what can you do with it? But the bottom line right now is that the cloud HPC is not yet ITAR compatible. And that's only really relevant to US customers, but it's still not quite there. But we're told that sometime next year it will be. So that might be the kind of the game-changing thing for cloud HPC to really take off. But basically, as kind of to discuss that a little more, AWS uses this kind of tenant separation idea where every job is created in a separate area of the cluster and no resources are ever shared. And basically, everything is independent of any other thing. So it's not slowed down by other work. And it's also, the risk of losing data to other people and hackers is also minimized. So Siemens SaaS applications are really driven and written with security in mind. They do full encryption from endpoint, but it's still not been fully sanctioned for ITAR. So really the bottom line is that it's getting there. And so Siemens and AWS continuously trying to, this is a big question for everybody, and so that's why there's a lot of slides in this, but there's lots of work going on, penetration testing, threat modeling is something that they really do all the time, both Siemens and AWS, and really redundancy in the local availability zones to really protect people who need to get urgent work done, but there might be an outage. How do we find other resources for them to do? And then lastly, at the bottom there, this is really the Siemens API. Everything is encrypted using a TLS 1.2 standard, and so I think the ITAR sanctions piece just needs the whole thing to come together and somebody to certify it, which I know Siemens are working on. And if you want to actually understand the security certifications that many people do, then you can see what Siemens have done here. AWS obviously has complete secure systems, and they actually divided up into various clusters. AWS most secure cluster is called AWS GovCloud, and Siemens have not yet run on that, and that really will probably be the solution that is their ITAR compliant solution sometime next year, where they're running on AWS GovCloud. So, but nonetheless, security is certainly a huge part of the plan, and everybody realizes it's important. So, with that in mind, let's. I think we've covered the basics of what cloud HPC is and how it can help. But also it's interesting to think about Siemens as a whole, and not just the STAR-CCM Plus portfolio, but also the Simcenter portfolio, the other tools within that environment. And this is a quote from some Siemens literature from earlier this year. And basically, I'll read it to you. So step by step, Siemens is committing to make its entire portfolio of hardware and software modular, cloud-connected, and built on a standard application and programming interfaces. By using these state-of-the-art blocks, customers and partners can innovate at the speed of the software. Hardware becomes constantly upgradable and even available as a service. Certified third parties and partners will be invited to add their offerings, making an even broader portfolio of open, interoperable technology. And so the nice thing is Siemens, they see the value of the cloud and are really committing to make all of their Simcenter tools part of a cloud-based future. So that's exciting for all of us. And so where did they start? Well, what they really started was this thing called Siemens Accelerator. And when it first came out about a year ago now, it was basically enabling Siemens tools to communicate with mostly AWS S3 buckets of data where data could be stored and shared between users. So if you had two STAR-CCM Plus users in different parts of the country in the US, they could both see the same data in a location. You could actually view it from within STAR and share it from within STAR, and you could do a much better kind of vision of collaborating with data. So really the first step in Siemens roadmap for cloud enablement of their products was really this accelerator, an accelerator share. And really when you look at the Siemens portfolio of products, it's pretty huge. They do, if you look at the ring around the outside, they have many pieces of software, and all of those pieces, obviously, I'm sat in at like 1 p.m. at simulation, but there's mechanical, there's everything else in here that goes into manufacturing companies designing products. And so Siemens' vision is that pretty much all of the products around the outside ring are going to be interoperable with the others. So simulation can talk to mechanical and electronics. Manufacturing can talk to operations. All of these things that will really enable a digital thread to accelerate by making all the tools collaborate with each other. And so really the first one the first thing that Siemens did as the first main product that they released as a cloud-based tool was Teamcenter X. Teamcenter is a PLM tool for product lifecycle management, and it's very, generally speaking, it's pretty complex to deploy, right? It needs a lot of planning and a lot of effort for a company to roll out a PLM solution. And so Teamcenter X is basically a cloud-based canned PLM solution ready for you to use. And so it helps smaller companies get a PLM solution that starts in the cloud and is ready to go. And so requires not a lot of investment to get it started. It's not zero, but it's certainly a lot less than the hundreds of thousands that it cost to deploy a full Teamcenter installation. So the Teamcenter X was the first of the Siemens products to really go to the cloud, and that started a precedent of adding an X to product names to let people know that was a cloud-enabled tool. And so aside from Teamcenter and Teamcenter X, now more recently there is NXX, which is a cloud-based version of NX, and Siemens very nicely have made us a video, which I'm going to play. I'm hoping the video will come through, the audio will come through onto everybody. So this is going to play right now.
When you look around at today's most innovative products, do you ever wonder what it takes to design, engineer, and manufacture them? Creating today's smarter, lighter, stronger, eco-friendly, and aesthetically stunning designs requires powerful computer-aided software with upfront seat licenses and expensive high-performance workstations. And those high upfront costs are a huge barrier for many. But now, NXX, a revolutionary new solution from Siemens, completely changes all that, empowering anyone to be a creator, innovator, or maker at a fraction of the cost. NXX is a cloud-based service that runs entirely in your browser on any device. And that's a game changer, because now you can tap into all the advanced industry-leading design capabilities of NX, even on mainstream tablets, laptops, or PCs, without the need to invest in seat licenses. NXX is fast and responsive on any device because it takes advantage of powerful graphics capabilities in the cloud, sending only graphical display updates to your device. All data between the cloud and your device is encrypted to ensure end-to-end security. You have the finest technology at your desktop, supported by Siemens operational excellence. Plus, NXX is easy to learn and use. It's pre-configured for simple use the moment you launch it. And you can easily access the guided training environment to learn more at your own pace. Another breakthrough advantage is the ability to run NXX on mobile devices, enabling unprecedented freedom. Imagine working on designs at work or home, while traveling, or at your favorite locations without compromise. Visit and collaborate with customers or colleagues anytime, anywhere. NXX frees your creativity and innovation easily and cost-effectively. NXX, it's your turn. What will you create?
Excellent. Well, I don't want that to run again, but I think that they tell the story very quickly in about 90 seconds and get a lot of information out there. But I think part of the fact that NXX is now available is interesting, because when we look back at what I've just said about Simcenter Cloud HPC, most of it is a batch process to utilize the cloud. It's clear that in the end, and who knows when that might be, but you know, the graphical parts of STAR and all the pieces that we right now do on our desktop can soon be migrated to the cloud, so we could ultimately run, you know, the cloud solution from almost any resource, probably any browser-based resource. You know, so you know, from our iPads to our Android tablets, can we set up a STAR-CCM Plus model and run it on the cloud? Not yet, but hopefully, you know, sometime in the next couple of years, we'll certainly be able to do that. And so with that in mind, I thank everybody for their time and would like to ask anyone if you have any questions. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat.